The President of the European Commission has hit back at Donald Trump's latest tariff threat, stressing the US is constrained by a limit.
Romania's pro-European coalition government collapsed after lawmakers voted in favour of a no-confidence motion against Prime Minister Ilie Bolojan.
Sweden has unveiled plans for its first dedicated foreign intelligence service, marking the country's largest security reform in decades.
The President of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, has hit back at Donald Trump's latest tariff threat, stressing the United States is constrained by a limit that prevents it from increasing duties on its own. The US President shocked Europeans last week when he suddenly threatened to raise tariffs on EU-made cars from 15% to 25%, alleging non-compliance.
A deal is a deal, and we have a deal. And the essence of this deal is prosperity, common rules, and reliability. Now we are both implementing this deal while respecting the different democratic procedures we have on both sides. On the European Union side, we are now in the final stages of implementing the remaining tariff commitments. So we want, from this work, mutual gain, cooperation and reliability, and we are prepared for every scenario.
According to the joint statement published by Brussels and Washington last year, the US was meant to lower tariffs on EU-made cars upon the introduction of the legislation rather than its final approval. At the same time, the US committed to an all-inclusive cap of 15% on EU goods, precluding the accumulation of additional duties. Since Trump posted his threat on Friday, Brussels has been seeking clarity from Washington about the reasoning behind it.
Romania's pro-European coalition government collapsed on Tuesday after lawmakers voted in favour of a no-confidence motion against Prime Minister Ilie Bolojan. The joint effort was launched last week when the leftist Social Democratic Party and the hard-right opposition Alliance for the Unity of Romanians submitted the motion to Parliament. The Social Democratic Party said Bolojan failed to implement any reform and that Romania needs a leader that is capable of collaboration. Meanwhile, the opposition's leader, George Simion, said voters wanted water, food and energy, but instead received taxes, war and poverty.
În ceea ce mă privește, indiferent de rezultatul acestei moțiuni, vă asigur că nu voi ceda de la valorile pentru care am luptat în acești ani și pe care le-am respectat în toată viața mea politică. Voi lupta până la capăt pentru reformele în care cred, pentru România modernă, pentru a crește calitatea vieții românilor.
The development triggered renewed turmoil in the country, which has faced a long period of instability. Romania is dealing with one of the highest budget deficits in the European Union, rampant inflation, and a technical recession.
People in the eastern German city of Leipzig held a candlelight vigil to mourn victims of Monday's car ramming attack, which killed 2 people and critically injured 2 others. The driver, a 33-year-old Leipzig-born German man, was arrested at the scene, and officials said his motivations remain unclear. The car careered from a major square in the Old Town, down a busy pedestrian shopping zone, traveling hundreds of meters. Prosecutors have opened a case on suspicion of 2 counts of murder and at least 2 counts of attempted murder. Police said late on Monday there was no evidence to suggest that the incident was politically or religiously motivated. According to German media, the suspect had already been known to police, albeit not for relevant offenses. Officials say they believe he acted alone, adding that he represents no further danger to the city.
Sweden has unveiled plans for its first dedicated foreign intelligence service, marking the country's largest security reform in decades. Foreign Minister Maria Malmer Stenergaard announced the new agency will be named UND and is set to begin operations in January 2027. The move is a direct response to the heightened threat environment following Russia's invasion of Ukraine. The minister compared the upcoming service to the UK's MI6, emphasizing that modern warfare requires an intelligence and technological edge just as much as traditional weaponry.
Det har blivit mycket tydligt under det pågående kriget i Ukraina att informationsövertag och möjligheten till snabb och kontinuerlig anpassning av olika tekniska system är lika avgörande som kvalificerade vapensystem. En innovativ, framåtlutad underrättelsetjänst som ständigt befinner sig vid den tekniska frontlinjen är av avgörande betydelse.
The new agency will take over some responsibilities from the current military intelligence service known as MUST. It is designed to work closely with domestic security and the National Defense Radio Establishment to identify and process external threats. As a new NATO member, Sweden says the restructuring will better align its intelligence capabilities with those of its Western allies. The government expects to send the bill for the creation of the new agency to Parliament this June.
4 people were killed and close to 36 others were injured in a Russian combination strike on the northern region of Poltava, according to the head of the district's military administration. Officials say missiles and drones struck at least 2 locations in the region, damaging an industrial facility and railway infrastructure and leaving close to 3,500 people without gas. The attacks were part of an overnight barrage into Tuesday, which also targeted other areas, including the adjacent Kharkiv region. Attacks in Kharkiv, one of the most active front lines in Russia's more than 4-year invasion, struck a train carriage and what local officials say caused no casualties. In Dnipro, another attack on transport infrastructure was recorded, with authorities reporting a drone strike on a station. An electric locomotive was damaged in that strike, but officials noted that no one was on board as the train had stopped earlier and sheltered passengers due to air raid sirens. An explosion at a fireworks plant in the central Chinese province of Hunan killed at least 21 people and injured more than 60 others, according to reports on state-run media on Tuesday. Aerial footage showed white smoke still billowing above certain areas of the site, even after firefighters had been fighting the flames for hours. The fires burned several buildings down to ashes, while many others collapsed or suffered severe damage. Nearly 500 rescue workers were deployed to the scene to extinguish the blaze, carry out search and rescue operations, and evacuate residents in close proximity to the plant. Authorities are still investigating the cause of the blast, but have preliminarily detained the person in charge of the company. Chinese President Xi Jinping ordered a full probe into the incident to be carried out diligently and expeditiously, and instructed local officials to make every possible effort to save lives. Authorities warn the death toll is likely to climb as rescue operations continue.
NATO is continuing to assess the implications of the US president's decision to withdraw 5,000 US troops stationed in Germany over the coming month, NATO spokesperson Colonel Martin O'Donnell said on Euronews program Europe Today.
Things still stand, as the NATO spokesperson said in her statement over the weekend. NATO is still working with the United States to understand the implications of the decision made on Friday. And so, as you had already mentioned, 6 to 12 months, all those things still being under consideration.
Donald Trump did not warn allies prior to his announcement of the withdrawal of US troops last Friday. Questions about logistics, such as from where and how the troops will be withdrawn, have risen. It's also unclear how the decision will impact the Defense Alliance's overall force posture. However, Colonel O'Donnell insists this doesn't change anything. NATO is still able and will still be able to deter and defend all alliance territory, he said.